On a hot July weekend, 200 people, mostly teenagers, began an arduous 30-mile trek across central Wyoming. A place of little water, fierce winds, and rough terrain, few people can travel through it at all, let alone while wearing a smile.
If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show.
What would draw thousands of young people every year to a place like this? The simple answer? Faith. And the desire of these young Mormons to pay tribute to the pioneers who went before them.
And they come from all over the western United States, as far south as Texas and as far north as Canada.
Electronics, cell phones, and things like that, they just leave those at home and just come here to be pioneers.
Since the Mormon Church began in 1830, its people have known persecution. Every place they tried to settle, they encountered trouble of some sort. Joseph Smith, founder of the church, wrote of their persecution in Missouri.
We were again attacked by mobs. Many of our people were murdered in cold blood. The chastity of our women was violated, and we were forced to sign away our property at the point of the sword. 12 to 15,000 men, women, and children were driven from their own lands. Many more died in consequence of the cold and hardships they had to endure. Many wives were left widows, and children were left orphans.
Leaving behind most of their worldly possessions, the journey began. Before it ended, some 70,000 Mormons would make the 1,300-mile trek to Salt Lake Valley.
The exodus to Salt Lake and the west was it was a tough time. I mean, you think about moving that many people with ox teams and wagons and little kids, old people.
The first Great Migration was difficult, but it can't be compared to the later suffering of 3,000 poverty-stricken European immigrants who could only afford hand carts to be pushed or pulled all the way to Salt Lake. Ignorant to the harsh conditions of the Wyoming High Plains, over 200 travelers froze to death. One woman, Elizabeth Jackson, wrote of losing her husband on the desolate Wyoming Trail.
The snow lay several inches deep upon the ground. The night was bitterly cold. I sat down on a rock with one child in my lap and one on each side of me. In that condition, I remained until morning.
Even without a winter blizzard, Rocky Ridge was the most difficult part of the trail. Facing heavy snow, frigid temperatures, and blowing winds, it took more than a day for the surviving pioneers to make this short climb and seek refuge from the storm. The story of husband and wife Jens and Elsie Nielsen is often retold and reenacted on the trail.
And poor Jens, his feet were so badly frozen that he just finally said, "I can't do this anymore, just leave me alongside the road." And Elsie said, "No, I won't leave you." And she put him in the handcart and proceeded to carry him over Rocky Ridge and down the 15 miles into Rock Creek Hollow.
She carried me up that hill today, but she's carried me throughout my life. A lot of you young people out there, I hope that someday you're able to find someone who's going to be able to help you get through your life.
There are many lessons along this trail. One of them is teaching young men about respect for women.
There's a point on the trail where we divide the young men from the young women in order to remember how the men passed away or were unable to pull the handcarts anymore. And so the young men go up to the top of a hill, and then the women pull the handcarts by themselves while the men are silently standing there watching.
I've seen them stand there with tears in their eyes, wishing that they could help. It transforms them into a different time and a different feeling towards each other.
I have pulled my handcart when I was so weak and weary from illness and lack of food that I could hardly put one foot ahead of the other. I have looked ahead and seen a patch of sand or a hill slope, and I have said I can only go that far, and there I must give up.
But most of these pioneers did go on to reach Utah, and they would remember their time of testing as they crossed the unforgiving Wyoming landscape. For some, the lessons learned during that bleak interlude of time spent in the territory of Wyoming would help guide them the rest of their lives.
I've gone on to that sand, and when I reached it, the cart began pushing me. I've looked back many times to see who was pushing my cart, but my eyes saw no one. I knew then that the angels of God were there. Was I sorry that I chose to come by handcart? No, neither then nor any minute of my life since. The price we paid to become acquainted with God was a privilege to pay.